All right, I'll turn it over to Michelle Fruge.
I have today Dr. Todd Pullin. He's a board-certified pediatrician on staff at our hospital, Acadian Medical Center. And he's going to talk today a little bit about the Measles Scare and Outbreak and touch on the immunization controversy a little bit. So, Dr. Todd.
Thanks for having me today. It's a very informal talk. So if you have questions or want to stop in the middle of anything, please let me know. A couple things up front. I mean, whether or not you fall, which side you fall on the whole immunization question, I'm just here to give you information. Having said that, I am a pediatrician, so you kind of know where I fall on that side. Just out of curiosity, talking about measles, this is just for my own curiosity. How many or have any of you ever seen anybody infected with measles?
I had measles.
You had measles?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And you,
Yeah, when I was very little, I can remember people having measles.
yeah.
I mean,
I'm just kind of curious because it's so incredibly rare these days. I've never seen measles, ever. The only time I saw mumps was when I went out of the country a few years ago to Haiti. I mean, you just don't see, any of these illnesses that vaccines help to prevent. So, having said that, what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about the illness itself. Measles is a virus that if you look at the symptoms, it starts off as a cold. It looks like a cold. It looks like flu. Fever, 103, 104. Cough, runny nose, really bad runny nose. Pink eye is part of it. And then a few days into the illness, you can see on the inside of the mouth, some kids will develop these white spots called Koplik spots. Those go away. And then about 3 to 5 days after the beginning of the fever, the rash starts. So you have all this other stuff that starts off where it looks just like any other kind of viral illness, cold, whatever, and then you start with this rash, which are flat, round spots that start from the head and work their way down. So it starts kind of, the hallmark is it starts like at the hairline, and then it starts here, and then just goes all the way down the body. Sometimes it can be raised. The spots can be raised. And then after a few days, it just kind of runs its course for the most part. The thing about measles that's striking is how contagious it is. So it's usually spread airborne, coughing, sneezing, and the little droplets that the person coughs or sneezes goes and hangs in the air. Those droplets are infected for up to 2 hours, either in the air or on surfaces. So a person could cough in the room right now, leave the room, we all leave the room, another group comes in, breathes that same air, and they get infected with measles. The other thing that's pretty striking about it is how transmissible it is. It's a 90% transmission rate, which means that for people that are at risk, that don't have immunity, 9 out of 10 people exposed to measles virus will come down with measles virus. So you can see how this whole outbreak thing really kind of spread like wildfire, and we're going to get to that in just a little bit too. So that's a little bit about the disease, about how transmissible it is and how it is transmitted. The other thing that people get and kids get into trouble with is the complications that arise from it. The most common ones that we see that we're seeing were ear infections and diarrhea. About 20% of kids would get ear infections, which is no big deal, treatable with antibiotics. The thing that kids get into trouble with is pneumonia, and that's, I'm going to give you the stats so I can give you the good numbers. Up to 5% are at risk for pneumonia as a complication, and this is the leading cause of death with measles. Then you get to more uncommon complications. Encephalitis, which is infection of the brain, basically. Inflammation, swelling of the brain and nervous tissues. And that's a 1 in 1,000. Then the long term, there's one condition that can be seen 7 to 10 years after measles infection, called subacute sclerosing panencephalitis. Big long name. But basically it just means somebody can get measles, recover fully. 7 to 10 years later, they can develop this illness that is a deteriorating neurologic condition that seizures, intellectual disability, and death. And it's rare. It's like 1 to 2 out of 100,000 cases of measles. The vaccine itself is a 2-series. So the recommended schedule is the first dose between 12 and 15 months of age, and the second at 4 to 6 years of age. The first dose, after they get the first dose, it confers about a 93% immunity. So it's a pretty effective vaccine. The second dose is 97%. So there's still a chance. I mean, you can still get, some kids or adults can get measles, but the chance goes way down, especially after that second dose of immunization. Talking about the vaccine itself, there are side effects of the vaccine, side effects of any medication that are out there. So, it's possible to get any kind of side effects. The most common ones would be fever and a rash. The statistics tell us that about 1 out of every 6 kids will have a fever, and about 1 out of 20 will have a rash. Sometimes you can get some swelling to their glands right here. The fever and the rash are a delayed reaction, so we see it about a week to 2 weeks after the shot, actually. Less common side effects, febrile seizure. So this is a seizure associated with fever. About 1 out of every 3,000 kids that gets the vaccine. There's a condition where the platelets, which is part of the blood system that's responsible for blood clotting, can go down temporarily. That's 1 in about 30,000 kids. So these are pretty rare side effects. Serious allergic reactions, anaphylaxis is what we call that. So, airway swelling can, lead to possible death. Less than 1 in a million for that. The controversy is autism. So that's the elephant in the room. And y'all may have heard or know something about this, and this is, I think, where the big debate comes in. There was an article that was published in the British journal Lancet in 1998. Lancet's a pretty respected medical journal by a gastroenterologist, and he was looking at whether or not MMR caused inflammatory bowel disease in children. The study was 12 kids. He found that his study showed that that there were certain proteins that were allowed to cross across the gut and cause some problems with the brain, and led to neurodegenerative diseases, specifically autism. That was his finding. That was 1998. Since then, it was discovered that part of his funding came from the lawyers that were representing the children of the parents of the children that were suing for the MMR vaccine causing autism. So there's conflict of interest there. And since that time, there's been over 20 studies that have looked specifically at this question. Nobody has ever been able to reproduce his findings. So that came into question, and eventually in, I think 2008 or 2009, the Lancet retracted that article, said that he falsified his information and his studies and his data, and that particular doctor is now barred from the UK from practicing medicine. So this is the only study that I'm aware of that ever put the two together and said that there was causation between MMR and autism. No study has ever done that, and it's now defunct. It doesn't hold water as far as that part of the argument. What I tell parents is, when you're talking about vaccinating your child with this particular vaccine or any other vaccine, it is your choice. My job is to give you information. I'm going to tell you these are the consequences, possible consequences of not giving the vaccine or with giving the vaccine. But ultimately, the parent has to make the choice, and that's kind of that's the information that I'm giving y'all today. I mean, you have to make that choice for yourself, but you also have to be well informed, and you have to go to reputable sources to get that information. So I always tell parents, please go, if you're going on the internet, please go to sites that are worthwhile. go to the CDC, go to, AAP, those type of places, because you can find something that will, places will tell you anything, basically. So you have to be careful.
Kate